But first, on the line with us, our old friend Peter Ferrara, who is currently an attorney and fellow at the Carlson Center for Public Policy. The ccpp.org is the website. Hey, Peter, welcome back.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. You and I are both, I'm assuming you're looking at it or you've read it, this new Cato Institute study by Michael Tanner and Charles Hughes called the Work versus Welfare Trade-Off 2013, an analysis of the total level of welfare benefits by state. Are we on the same page here?
Well, I haven't read that. No, nobody told me about that, but I can comment on the ideas. I'm certainly familiar.
Well,
with
in that case, then we can just discuss the situation in the abstract, if you'd prefer.
All right.
Why in this report, in any case, they talk about how much money people get when they're living on welfare, and they make so much money that why bother going to work? But what I don't understand is why anybody in the United States would argue that food, which is, something if we don't have, we die, that food isn't a basic human right, that people who are hungry, whether it's because they are disabled and they can't work, whether it's because they were born in grinding poverty, whether it's because they're born in part of the country where there's no jobs, or even if it's because they're lazy, why people who are hungry should not be fed.
Well, I'm in favor of a safety net to make sure that there's no human suffering for any American.
So you are in favor of food stamps?
But I'm not in favor of any taxpayer assistance for people who don't want to do anything more than sleep till noon and watch TV all afternoon. So that's my position.
So how do you know?
Well, for example, you can have a work requirement, which says if you're able-bodied...
Right, we've got that. Bill Clinton put that into place.
Well, that was for one program. That was the old AFDC program, which is now the TANF program, Temporary Assistance to Needy Families.
Right.
That's one program out of 200 federal means-tested welfare programs. So I would extend the work requirement to all of the remaining federal means-tested welfare programs. And that one program, the work requirement, was an enormous success. 2/3 of the people on the program went out to work, and their incomes were documented in studies to increase.
Well, that's because that was in the middle of the Clinton administration when we had this incredible dot-com bubble, plus Bill Clinton had raised taxes on rich people, which, as we all know, stimulates the economy. So the economy was growing quite rapidly during that time. More jobs were available, and I think pretty much everybody would rather have a job than be on welfare. Right now, though, you've got more people on welfare than ever before, and it's not because they want to sit around and eat Doritos and watch TV. It's because there's no work out there. You know that.
What I know is I lived with people last year and observed them sleeping till noon and watching television all afternoon with their kids who were receiving food stamps. Yeah. And so I don't favor that.
Well, that's a shame, but isn't there... I mean, here's the conservative argument for this, Peter. And I'd love to get your take on it. This is the very, just looking at the money part of it, on the assumption that we both share that there should be a social safety net through which people don't fall. There is always going to be, there always have been, I mean, Ben Franklin wrote about this in his autobiography. You're probably familiar with that, where he went over to England and he was horrified by people on the dole, and he talked about people need an incentive to work. There have always been, there will always be, to paraphrase Jesus, the poor among us. And of them, there will always be this small percentage, and there's been a number of attempts to quantify it, and it seems like the broad consensus is around 3%, what they call the hardcore unemployed, the permanently unemployed, the people who simply don't want to work. So there's always going to be that 1 to 3% of Americans or of any citizens of any kind of nation who are going to abuse the system. The cost of putting the other 97% of people who are legitimately hungry, legitimately needy, legitimately in need of assistance, having them show up 2-3 times a month at the office, having them document all their attempts to get work, having them be inspected, have all these bureaucrats who are following them around and making sure that nobody's gaming the system. The cost of maintaining that work requirement is greater than the amount of fraud, if you want to call that fraud, that it prevents. It seems to me like we should just say, there's always going to be 1 to 3% of Americans who are just going to be bums. They're not going to want to work. And you can call it a mental illness or you can call it whatever you want, but most people would rather work than not. And we're just going to take that into account, figure that's a cost of doing business for us as a nation with some kind of decent sense of humanity, and do like the European countries with more generous social programs do, say, yeah, there's going to be some people who are gaming the system, but the cost of trying to stop them is greater than the cost of letting them game the system. So what the heck?
No, I don't agree that the cost of the work requirement is more. In fact, when they adopted the work requirement for the old AFDC program, the cost of the program declined by 50% from where they would have been otherwise under prior trends. And that was after 10 years. They were down.
That was because the number of people on the program went down.
Yes, because with the work requirement, you eliminated the incentive not to work, and so people went to work.
It did it over a period of, what was it, 4 years? The Clinton thing. 4 or 5 years, wasn't it? You could only be on.
Well, this was there was a retrospective done after 10 years, and these were the results. I mean, 2/3 of the people had gone to work,
right?
Who were formally
because we were living in good times.
2/3.
We were living in good times, but what do you get?
That's not difficult to do. Actually, you didn't adopt pro-growth economic policies. But in addition,
right, I agree. Let's roll back the Reagan tax cuts and let's do away with globalism and bring back our jobs. I really think that if you look at the times when America's labor market was tight, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, early 80s, during the Clinton years when the labor market was tight, unemployment dropped. I mean, we've had unemployment in the United States as low as 3% and 4%. That's where you're hitting that. Those are the folks who actually don't want to work. And I'm willing to have 3 cents out of every dollar I send go off, that ends up supporting people who are hungry. I'm willing to spend that 3 cents to care for people who really don't want to work, as long as I know with great certainty that the rest of the people are getting what they want. And you say it's less expensive, but you're not factoring in the human cost. I remember the first time I ever went on, actually the only time I ever went on unemployment. I was 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, something like that, and I had lost my job. And I signed up for unemployment, and it was a brutalizing experience standing in line. It was a humiliating experience. And putting people through that doesn't lift them up. It doesn't encourage them to get out and do more. It just beats them down.
Well, there's no human cost to going to work. And the official U.S. government data shows there is very little work among the bottom 20% of the income earners. And that has occurred after the adoption of the war on poverty. So that work has collapsed because taxpayers are paying $1 trillion a year. That's another official government figure, are paying $1 trillion a year to them not to work.
Well, no, we're paying $1 trillion a year to people who are the victims of Reaganomics, Peter.
That's why the bottom 20% of income earners do not work, because taxpayers are paying them $1 trillion not to work.
Wait a minute. How can they be income earners if they're not working?
Well, that's income earners used loosely because we're referring to income being earned when, in fact, it's given away to them at taxpayer expense. But
so they're not income earners.
No, the bottom 20% of the income distribution, which you correctly say should not be considered income earners, engage.
Well, no, I think they are income earners. If they got a job and they're making an income.
I don't know. When I say income earners, you dispute it. Then when I
here's another part of the problem, and that is that we're subsidizing Walmart.
Income earners or not.
Okay.
And don't correct me one way and then correct me the opposite way in the next sentence.
Well, it's my prerogative. I get to be fickle.
Yeah, well, I know. You do that a lot on your show.
Okay. Peter Ferrara, theccpp.org is his website. Attorney and fellow at the Carlson Center for Public Policy. Always a pleasure talking with you, Peter. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you. Bye now. We'll be right back.